Well, it is now 1 o'clock here in Boston. Hello and welcome to the Alpha Anywhere demo and Q&A webcast. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Products and Services, and I'm pleased to present Dion McCormick, no relation, who is our lead solutions engineer here at Alpha. Today, Dion will be giving a demonstration of some cool stuff that he's learned in Alpha, and he's also here, and we're also here to take your questions. We're also joined by Sarah Mitchell, who's in charge of documentation, who'll be helping us throughout this session to help find you the answers to your questions. Speaking of which, if you do have any questions, go ahead and type those questions into the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel. So let us begin. Hello, Dion, are you there?
Yes, I am, sir.
Fantastic. Let me go ahead and make you the presenter. And there's your screen.
All right, dynamite. Hey, thank you everybody for joining us on our weekly adventure with Alpha Anywhere and Transform. We want to say thanks for taking time out of your very busy schedule. We appreciate that. And we also want to thank everybody who's been sending in questions and other aspects. We really appreciate that. Also, I got to do a huge shout out to our associate, Sarah, who did an amazing job last week. And we got so many positive responses from people in regards to the CSS styling. I mean, off the charts. People were loving it. I think I'm seeing the writing on the walls. You don't need me anymore. I get it. I understand.
Maybe we can
So
bring
I'm
it
going to
back
work through the
next week.
pain.
Yeah.
I'm going to work through the tears. I'm going to deliver because that's what we do here. But anyway, Sarah's done a phenomenal job, and people are clamoring for more. So we are very excited. And again, thank you, Sarah, for taking all the time to put that together and providing such valuable information to our team out there in the field. And we anticipate more. In fact, a little bit of administrivia real quick. Next week is spring break. All right, everybody. I hope everybody's got their plans to go to the beach and have too much fun and play with a volleyball and stuff like that. So we won't be having a webinar next week because of spring break, but we'll be back the week after. And in fact, we're going to do a follow-up on the CSS styling stuff after we get back because there's such a high demand for that information. It's just absolutely phenomenal. So I do hope everybody has some really fun spring break plans scheduled. And so we'll again be back here a week after next. With that, not many announcements other than, golly, if you're not on Transform Tuesday, you're missing out big time. Big time. And I think you really need to take the time, if you haven't, to spend time there. What's interesting is one thing about Transform that's very powerful is that how easy it is to get something very complicated going very quickly. And more importantly, that its ability to integrate with Alpha is deeply ingrained within the product. So it's really straightforward to leverage what is done there. What I'm finding is that it's an amazing prototyping tool. You can put together something in Transform far faster than any other methodology out there and be able to prove out your concept, put your pieces in place. And then depending on how you can go to market with that, or you can look at transferring that capability to Alpha itself. So there's really a lot of exciting things that can be done there. So I highly recommend, if you're not joining us for Transform Tuesdays, get on there, go send an email to guides@alphasoftware. Do you want any guides, or where would you like those requests?
Yeah, guides is fine, but so is TF service, as in transform service at alphasoftware.com.
Yeah,
Yesterday we did a
service.
TF, yeah.
And either way, we want to get you on top on that.
Yeah, exactly. Yesterday we did a session on on-device assets, so I showed how to build an application which lets you offline be able to look at training videos and a owner's manual that was in PDF format. And I showed you how to get it up onto those devices, and it's ridiculously easy. So that video will be posted later on today.
It's very cool. And if you haven't seen that, there's this really cool demo where someone is out in the field working on, say, they scan an HVAC unit or a generator or something like that. And so they scan the barcode, and then in the tool, basically we've uploaded all of the different manuals in PDF format for the different generators / HVAC units. And then what it allows you to do is quickly look up and find that PDF and display it. So for field personnel, that's enormous because there's still a lot of data that's locked into PDFs, videos, documents. I mean, there's many, many different forms. And also the original formatting is intact. So you can really leverage a lot of existing data, and that's really a cool feature. And the combination of the searching and sort of the scanning, search, and display all together in one, and being able to do it in a matter of minutes, putting something like that together is really, really powerful. So definitely check it out. Thank you very much, Dave. That's cool stuff. Today, what I wanted to do was talk to you a little bit more about the list control. I had actually an interesting question from a client this week, one of Alpha Anywhere's fabulous developers, and they had developed a Alpha Anywhere mobile application, and that mobile application was working great. They were basically collecting information out in the field, and what they wanted to do was automate the processing of that information on the back end, meaning that after the individuals in the field synchronized their system to the front end, then they wanted to take that and quickly update some tables and do some other post-processing kind of managing. So what we've come up with is, and already built into the technology, is the ability to do that. So today what I wanted to do was a quick demonstration that would walk through how to do to use this synchronization methodology, and more importantly, how to trigger a automatic process after the synchronized event has occurred. And so I want to go through and do a quick demo of that today. And then obviously we will be answering any questions you may have. So if you have any questions, please go to the questions section of the GoToWebinar control panel, put your questions in there, and Dave will be monitoring it, and we'll get to those ASAP. So I'm going to dive into our development environment. I'm in the Alpha development environment, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new UX, because remember, the list control lives inside of the UX component. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. I'm going to go to controls. I'm going to go down here to data controls and find my list control right here. And I'll just go list customers. Let's say I want to have a list of customers on my UX. So I'm going to go and I'm going to make this easy for myself. I'm going to go down here to list control quick setup genie. I could do all this manually, but I kind of like Alpha doing the work for me. It just saves me a lot of time, and then I can tweak things as I see fit. So I'm going to go through and set a couple parameters. First, we've got our connection string. I'm going to just use our Northwind, so we grab the customer data. I'm going to specify what data I want, which is the customers table. And then I'm sure you've seen this before, so I'll move through this quickly. And I'm just going to select a few of them here. I just need a few things here. I'm going to go ahead and add a detail view, and most importantly, I want this to be available disconnected. So I've got a list which has a detail view and local storage. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on there. And this will take a moment while it's generating the fields, and you'll see it generated a list control, and then it generated a set of fields in my container, and then my pre-made buttons to do things like saving, creating new records, etc. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to add a panel layout. And in my left side, I'm going to put a panel card there around my customers. And here I'm going to do my panel card around there. So basically just doing a little cleanup work, making it so it looks good. But the nice thing is this is all ready to go. So we'll go list sync demo. So I'm saving that in there. And now we have our list control. I'll go ahead and do a preview and show you what it looks like. Okay, so I've got my customers here. My detail view here is with my button, so I can select that there. And let's say I go ahead and change this right here. Click Save. You'll notice that this is an offline app, so it may be a little hard to see, but up here we have a little orange caret that shows that this record has been modified but not synced to the backend system. So I'm going to go ahead and click Sync, and boom, now it's applied that change to the backend system. So everything's up to here normal. You're building your offline mobile application. You got everything. But let's say when that happens, you want to post process, meaning you want to look at and find out what has changed and maybe take some further actions with it. And you want that to occur on the server, not the front end here. So with that, there's an amazingly great feature built into the list. And let's go ahead and show you that. I'm going to go into design. I'm going to go into my list of customers here, and I'm going to go to the detail view here. Okay, detail view handles, when you enable the detail view, it handles all the offline data editing, everything else. So you'll find in the detail view a series of server-side events. And you'll see some cool ones. There's on synchronize, and it tells you a little bit here. And this is if you want to grab and do all the synchronization yourself. You don't have to use the built-in synchronization at this time. You can actually write your own code to do synchronization, which is very interesting, very powerful, because for instance, you might want to synchronize against a web API versus a database table. A lot of cool stuff you can do. But you'll notice we also have what's called the after synchronize event. And this is fired when after the synchronization has occurred between the device, whether it's a web or a mobile device, and the backend server. So I want to go ahead and trap, that's where I want to trap my behavior. So I'm going to click here, and you'll notice it's asking me for an XBasic function. So I'm going to call it sync function, just for giggles. If you had an existing function, you can map to it, but you'll notice that when I put in there, it's got show function prototype here. So I've given it a name. It doesn't exist yet, but I can click on here and it gives me a pre-made, ready to go function that's got the right name and all the comments necessary. So this allows me to have sort of a template that I can use again. So I'm going to go ahead and click copy to clipboard. Now I need to go over here to XBasic functions and paste it in. That's where all of my backend functions go. So I'm going to instead click open XBasic function declarations, paste it here, and click OK. And that's equivalent to me clicking here and pasting it in there. It just saves me a couple steps to make sure it's done correctly. Okay, so now I have my list here. It's got the after synchronize event, and everything will work the same. So let me go ahead and go back in. Now I've got that sync event. Go here, wait for it to update, select this, go ahead and change here, and save and synchronize. But you'll notice everything worked, nothing changed. But what happened on the back end is that if I go to the XBasic functions, this function was actually called. Now nothing happens in that function, but we're going to change that right now. So let's do the following. Let's have some fun. Let's say you just want to log every synchronization event. Something very simple. Maybe it's for auditing purposes, maybe for history tracking, etc. Well, we can do that very easily. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead, and first I'm going to say log data is equal to, and then you'll notice there is a set of commands. This is an array of objects, but here e.listData.json is the raw data here. Okay, so basically when this function runs, it gives you a whole bunch of information about what happened. So it tells you whatever happened in that synchronization, it exposes it here. So it gives you the ability to modify it. So I'm doing something very simple. I'm just saying, give me the data that was used for synchronization. But you'll notice, so we can find out like where there, give me, if records were updated, flagged, deleted. So it gives you a lot of control over understanding what happened during the synchronization process. Now I'm going to go here. I'm going to use a built-in function, and I'm going to go log data plus crlf, comma, and I'm going to put it in C:\debug. And this is a hack, but we'll just do it here. Debug called webinar list sync dot text. And I'm going to go true. So there's a built-in function that basically allows you to save to a file data. And so this is the data here. It's going to be my log data with a carriage return line feed. I could put in like something even more interesting. I could go now plus crlf. So now what I'm going to do is put in the log file. I'm going to put in the date and time of the log event and the log data and set it up from there. Now I'm putting it in a fixed file here. And here you go, right here, this is basically saying, should I append it? So this allows me to continue to append to the saved to file. I'm gonna go ahead and copy this, and I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the chat. So if anybody interested on that, cool, okay. So let's go ahead and save this. Let's go in my work in preview. Gonna go ahead and go back to our favorite record here and modify that. I'll save it. Now I'm going to do a synchronize. Now the synchronize occurred, so what I'm going to do now is go back to my data. Let's go to my drive, into my debug, and we'll see right there, there's a new document here called Webinar List Sync. I'm going to right click and edit that, and you'll see this is what it is. It's got a date and a time, and here is all the JSON data about the sync event. So you'll notice it has the information there. I'm going to scroll over. It's got a, oops, sorry, let me go over here. You'll notice that it's got a primary key, so it tells you which record was updated. And it gives you a whole bunch of other data too. For instance, it gives you, and I'll scroll over and it'll calm down a second, tells you, is it a new row? Is it dirty? Yes. And also I can go over here and it gives me all the information about were there any errors, was there conflicts, what would happen, etc. And it also gives me the old data. So I can actually use it as sort of a, what was my old data, the new data. So the bottom line though is that Alpha, when it does the sync event, basically gives you all this information that allows you to then act on it. Now I'm doing something very simple. In my case, what I'm doing this here is I'm just grabbing the actual raw data and then I'm logging it out to a file. That's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. But I could take this data here and analyze it and do many different things. So for instance, I could call a function to update a database table. I could call another function to look at that and say, oh, I need to see an email, etc. I mean, the sky is the limit, and this will be essentially triggered every time someone puts a does a synchronization event. Now, one little caveat I like to say right here is that do be wary that when this occurs, basically this has to finish before the client is notified everything's done. So in fact, you'll see down here there is a e.javascript, so I can say e.javascript is equal to alert sync done. Okay, so much like any XBasic callback, I can send information back to the front end. So that opens up some cool opportunities. First, I can do some processing and then immediately notify the person after the synchronization that something happened. Like, so for instance, maybe I look at the data that was synchronized and then I send a message back to the front end saying, go show this panel with some information. Or I could write some JavaScript that updates some other fields on the interface, etc. The sky's the limit. But do realize that when you do this, before the mobile device will call the server, it will perform its synchronization task. So it's going to do its own thing. Then it's going to call this function here, and that function gives you the opportunity to then do some things like that. And then once all that's done, it sends a message back to the mobile device saying, or website saying, okay, everything's done, good, everything's been synchronized, because it allows you to communicate back through there. Now the concern is, and you just want to be wary, this is a very fast kind of thing. It's just boom, it's on the disk, we're done. But if you end up something like you have a process here and it's going to take 30 seconds to do, that could be a problem because it's the person syncing it is going to have to wait for 30 seconds to get this response back. And that could be problematic. So I just want you to be aware that the sync is not fully done till this code is completed. So be careful on it. So one way we've looked at doing things like this is that if, for instance, you have this really long-running product or process, like you're going to send a bunch of emails or something, it's going to take time to do that. Well, in this function right here, you can basically throw things in the work queue table, and then later on in the work queue table, execute those items there. So it really depends on what your need is, but I just like to be careful that if it's going to take a long time, be careful putting that code here, because then when the sync happens, like here, let me give you a chance. Let's go here and I'm going to put in sleep 4. So I'm just putting in something that says sleep for 4 seconds. So now I'm going to go into my working preview. Going to go click here, change my amount. Then I'm going to synchronize. And you'll notice, check out the synchronize button. It's still kind of highlighted. Boom, now it came back. So, if it's fast, 1 or 2 seconds, nobody's going to notice, but it could confuse the person if that thing's going to take 30 or 40 seconds or a minute or 2 minutes to do that. So something to be aware there. But the power is now, and I'll go back to my here, notice that since I have that function, it just automatically logged my next transaction, including the date and time and stuff. So at the very least, it's very simple to do some logging activity. And by the way, this can be used to recreate data later on. So almost like an audit trail, although there's better ways to do audit trails within the system from there. So that is called server-side syncing. Basically how it works is in your list control, in the detail view, you can then assign a sync function. You can call it anything you want. That then after the synchronization occurs, it goes to that function, runs any code, and it allows you to send a message back. And that message could be an alert, could also be something like take them to a different panel. I mean, anything that will run JavaScript on the client side is available within there. And the other thing I really, really like is the fact that this basically, again, gives you all the data about what happens with this synchronization event. So you can completely see what happens, take adjustments, etc., other things like that. There's only one other little caveat, is that if you have a hierarchical data structure on there, all of the lists in the hierarchy are synchronized. So just to let you know that it's a little different animal when you're doing multiple parent-child lists there. So it just gives you some guidance on how to handle it here. Sort of a corner case from there. A lot of times you'll just have a single list and you'll be able to handle it there. But if you have multiple lists, you have to do things just a little differently from within the system. So that is called, basically I call it list synchronization functions. Very handy, very useful, especially if you're going to then take this data and update some other tables or send a web API or do something like that. Very straightforward, very easy to implement, and very flexible. And if you be careful about how much time it takes, the user doesn't see anything going on. And so therefore, you don't have to create some kind of polling system to check things after a while. You can just say, hey, every time someone out in the field syncs some data, I'm just going to take that data and process it immediately and get it done. And then they're good to go from there. So that is the fabulous Synchronize event, and built in and available in the system in there for some time. But I wanted to share that with everybody to let you know that that's available, and they can add that to their little tool bag of kits, or to their tool bag of different things they can do with the system.
Their bag of tricks.
Yeah, that's it. That's a better way.
Trick bag of something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Question for you. So a moment ago, actually, if we could just jump back to that code.
Sure.
You had pointed out, okay, this code has to finish executing on the server before the client is notified. Would it be possible to put up a message that fired before synchronization and then have the thing basically stop that message?
Yes, absolutely. So built into here, and the way you're going to want to do that, this is the code that says save list edits. So in here, and the way to really handle it is that what I would do is I'd create a panel header, and then in here I would have a control bar. I'll go ahead and set example control bar. Okay. So I've created a control bar that's going to be in my system. In here, you can create disclosures, and what disclosures are really cool little, basically they're like pop-up panels inside the control bar. And in fact, they have a really cool, let me see if I can even do it here. Let's see, you can do it many different ways. You can do injectable, disclosure form. There's one that's a weight disclosure. And what will happen is when you have the weight disclosure, i.e., it'll actually pop up a little screen to show like a weight message. Yeah. And then so let's go ahead and try this real quick. I'm just going to try this. So bear with me, everybody.
I love this live unplanned demo.
Live, I know it's like without a net here. So okay. So first thing I'm going to do in here is put in a container, and I'm going to put in a injectable content. There's a better way to do this, by the way, and I'll find it in a few moments. It's actually called the weight. There's actually a built-in weight one in the control bar, but I don't know that offhand. So I'm just going to go here and I'm going to go other things. I'll put text. I'll go. This is a great question, by the way. Thank you. We get this a lot because there may be times where you do want to do other things and they take a while. And then let's put in an image here, static, go to SVG, time. There we go.
Something or okay, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so this is called injectable content. And what it is that control bars, when you have disclosures, can be one of two types. They can either be built-in HTML in the control bar itself, or you can create. And this is really cool because you can create like a little subform. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go to my disclosures. I'm going to add a disclosure. And the type it's going to be is injectable. And I'm going to point to my injectable too. Okay. Any lines? Oh, I got a sign there. I thought I'd added it already. Let me do something real quick. I'm going to just go back into here, insert control bar template. Okay. Oh, okay. When in doubt, start over. Okay. So I'm going to put in a control bar. I think it's in data controls. Where's control bar? I have it do it automatically usually, so it's in other controls. There it is, yep. Okay. Insert a template. By the way, you can save your own templates, which is kind of cool. Header. And okay. So let me save that. So we now should have a good control bar. So now I'm going to go back in. I'm going to go to my disclosure. I'm going to add a disclosure. And I'm going to make it a injectable, and I'm going to push the injectable here. Okay. And then I'm going to go up here, and let's just go ahead and for giggles, I'm going to add a button here. And I'm going to add a new action, and it's a control bar action. And the action is show disclosure. So you notice there's a bunch of actions that are available for control bar, refreshing it, setting the active layout, you name it, you can do it, it's there. So the control bar ID is that one, and the disclosure is disclosure 1, okay? So what I did just to go through is I created an injectable content, put in my stuff in there. That could be like, for instance, a GIF. It's easily done. You could create your own GIF, which is kind of cool. In my control bar, I added a disclosure here and pointed it to that injectable content. And then I have this button that will show it. So let's go ahead and do this. Show you how that works. Okay. Oh, there. Okay, so it's over here. It's kind of hidden. So let's adjust where that disclosure comes up. This is actually a good topic. So disclosure type is here, and where do we set where it shows up? Injectable container. How do we set it so the disclosure comes up ahead of time? See, what's going on is it's kind of showing, but it's kind of showing in the header there. God, I'm so rusty on this. I'm so sorry, everybody. Let me just go ahead and go back to the original. So once I've figured out and fixed how the control bar should work, or the container there, so watch up here. You'll see there's a please wait come out here. Reality is I can make that come over here if I set that value right, which I'd have to go back and look at how to set that up. But now that I've got that, I can go to this button here, Oh, here, wait, maybe this is it. Ah, yeah. Okay, sorry guys. So this action shows it, but in here I can go to the disclosure settings and I can decide which one. And
It's
there's
in the
all these
Action
other ones.
JavaScript. Gotcha.
So let me try cover. Let's give me that one. Okay. And I'm going to go in here real quick and I'm going to put in, just to make it a little bit more substantial, I'm going to put in a alignment and I'm going to make that align width be 200 pixels by 200 pixels. And I'm going to make it center middle. Hopefully that will take up some more space. So, okay. So again, I went into my button. I said, show the disclosure. But when I showed the disclosure, I told it to then use a different display type. So it'll actually hopefully cover everything on my screen. So let's give that a try and see if that works here. Okay. Oh, it's still coming up there. So please, oh, it covered the whole control bar. So I'm going to play with that a little bit more. This is where you read the manual. Outside after. Let's go screen left. Let's go ahead and do there. We're almost there. And then we're going to solve the original question. Okay. So you can see this please wait comes up here and it's got like this. And then I click out of it and it will go away. Now, I've got that gone. So now what I can do is I can go to button. And actually, I'm going to convert this, view this in JavaScript, and then I'm going to grab this JavaScript here, copy it. So again, here's my control bar action. I have it working how I hope it would work. I click View JavaScript. I copy this code to the clipboard. So I just, grab it all and copy it. Then what I'm going to do is go back to my synchronize event here, and I'm going to paste that there. Okay. So I've pasted it in there. Let's go ahead and save that. Okay, now the tricky part is I'm going to create another button here. Not the tricky part, but the other thing I want to do is I want to go to other controls. I'm going to create another button here. And that button, let me go ahead and move that to here. Okay, I'm going to go into that button. I'm going to go add new action. I'm going to go to my control bar actions, and it's going to be to hide disclosure, and the disclosure I want is any disclosure shown for control bar number 1, and I'm going to view the JavaScript and I'm going to grab that. Okay, so now I have those two buttons. So now what I need to do is go back to my xbasic function here, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to say e.javascript is equal to, and I'm going to use a little thing here, JavaScript, and paste it. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is highlight this out. So I actually had someone ask me about this. This is a cool little feature, is that if you're going to have multiple lines of code, instead of having to build them up one by one or use escape characters, etc., there's this cool thing where you can do left caret, and then the type of material. And what it will do is it encloses all this as a single chunk of character text. So I don't have to actually create these side by side. So I'm basically sending back that hide disclosure. Now, if this worked correctly, and we will know in a moment, and keep an eye over here on the left. So I'm going to go ahead and modify this now. Okay, so I'm hitting synchronize. What happened? I think I have to do a if then. Notice the please wait. What I have to do is go into the synchronize event here. And where is my code here? Let's see, well, let me try, I can do it, JavaScript side. Okay, here's the deal, everybody, just to let you know. JavaScript is asynchronous, meaning it just goes running through this whole thing. And what happens is it goes ahead and executes this synchronize before it's done the disclosure show. So basically I need to break this into two separate things and use synchronous JavaScript. So it fires off the JavaScript there, and it handles it and does the save list edits. And basically, this is how you do it. It's basically you trigger the animation first, which shows the disclosure, and then you do this list edits, and that will then. And then what happens is you'll notice. Actually, if I do the working preview, you can kind of see it. It's not as impactful, but when I hit synchronous here, or synchronize, let me go ahead and adjust that. Okay, watch up in the left-hand corner right here. You'll see that it didn't show the disclosure there, but it's going to show the disclosure. And then notice it went right away.
And it disappeared, yeah.
Right, and the reason it disappeared is that after the sync was done, it sent these two little commands, and so the moment it showed. So what we would do in that case is that we would go back into our synchronize event here, and I would copy that out, and then actually the way I would do it is put it as an XBasic JavaScript action, and then what you can do is use synchronous. So what I can do here is, let me go ahead and try that real quick. So I'm going to create a new action. I'll go sync, and so I'll go in and build the sync here. I'm going to go disclosure. And even this, I'm going to, oops, no, control bar. Show disclosure, control bar, disclosure number 1. And we want to set the display type to be outside after, okay? Whatever that happens to be there, okay? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new one, which is list control. And that list control is going to be, so do I have the list control in here? Refresh, navigate, and show list. Nope, well, I'm going to have to do this. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to go into my synchronize here. I'm going to grab this code right here. I'm going to go back into my JavaScript actions. I'm going to add a new action, or I'm going to edit my existing action. I'm going to add a new action here, which is inline JavaScript, and I'm just pasting that code right there. So I show the disclosure and do it. And then down here, I'm going to click Run Action Synchronously. So it should show the disclosure and then run the sync event. I think that's, I've had an issue even this not working properly. Now I'm going to go to my Synchronize Event button. I'm going to get rid of all this. By the way, this is a better way to make things maintainable. And I'm going to run my sync event here. So all this does when this button, it goes over to XBasic or JavaScript actions and runs that action. So let's see what goes on here. And I know how to fix this. So let's say, okay, working preview. There, 1, save, and yeah, it's still a race condition. Sometimes that synchronous doesn't work. You'll see this will pop back in a moment. But in this JavaScript action here, one of these needs to be looped with a little wait statement. So I've done that before. I'm not sure why the run action synchronously is not working in this case. It should be basically doing each step, but I think it's because we're purely in JavaScript that it's kind of giving me a hard time. So do there. But long story short, the way to handle that is to show a disclosure from a control bar, or you can, if you don't want to show a disclosure, you could actually just create a window.
You weren't doing that in working preview, were you, by any chance?
Yeah, I was. Oh, you know what? Maybe in full preview?
I think synchronous does not work unless you're doing it in live preview. According to that last
unless
message.
You put in something there. There it is right there.
Yeah.
1,000, 2, 3, 4. Bomb, gone.
And it's gone.
It did. Thank you. Oh, wow.
And
I
we
didn't
learned
know
an important thing about
working
preview. And the only reason is I just noticed that while you were putting it in is that when you click that asynchronous button, it actually has a little note next to it saying, this doesn't work in live preview. And I didn't know that, to be honest with you.
Are you actually asking developers to read the instructions?
I hope not. That'll be a sorry day, won't it? Yeah.
That's just rude. Where does it say that? I want to see that.
Okay, go back to,
right here.
There you go.
Working preview, the run action feature is not implemented when you're running a component in working preview.
Right.
Well, look at the brain on Brad. Oh, man. I learned something. Actually, I literally had that problem this morning, and I ended up just putting a little JavaScript wait statement around one of mine to force it. So if you want it to work that way, you can actually, in your inline JavaScript, you can actually put a a timer function inside the JavaScript, which is pretty handy there.
Right. Oh yeah, sure, I can see that too.
Yeah, but no, now I know.
Yeah.
Live preview. And
Fantastic.
what, by the way, what is going on is over time, that actually brings up a good topic. The development team has been working very, very hard to blur the distinction between these two environments. So certain things have always just not worked in live preview, but they're really trying to move more and more over into working preview. So working preview is more real in terms of running it for real. So that's happening there. But you'll see there's still some things that are a little different. Live preview, working preview also doesn't support security. So you can't really do things in security in working preview.
Right.
You have to use live preview. So those are kind of the different elements between the two. Great question. I know it took forever to answer that, but I hope it showed. We covered disclosures.
No, you start to finish. You put up the control bar used for raises a disclosure, and then using asynchronous JavaScript, you raise the disclosure, perform your execute of the synchronization. Make sure you're doing it in live preview.
Yes.
And then the return JavaScript is what hides the disclosure. So that's I like that. Speaking of return JavaScript, we have a couple questions about that return JavaScript. First of all, could you show us that e.javascript statement again? And would you mind just pasting that into the chat window? Because there's someone here who would like to get a snippet of that code all the way up to e.javascript equals or whatever. I don't know. Yeah.
You want all of it, or I'll just click all of it?
You can always remove what you don't need. I'll paste that in chat just because someone is asking for it.
And whenever you put, just to let everybody know, if I go left caret, you'll notice that it brings up this. And basically it says there's like an ending and beginning portion. And what's nice is that if you do like different types, it formats the information in it. That's why there's these.
Notice that with HTML, it'll color code your text
let's go ahead and do that.
make suggestions for you as you go. All right.
Yeah. So I'll go in here and I'll put a break. And notice it's smart enough to know like that stuff. So these are blue and stuff like that. And what's great is I can put as many lines as I want, and it just treats all of this as one chunk of text. So I don't have to do any weird stuff. And you know where I use that a lot? And I'm gonna just steal some thunder here. I'm gonna go dim first name is equal to Joe, and dim SC equals to Joe. And I'll go last name as C equal to Doe. And I'm going to go dim message as C. And I'm going to go message is equal to hello first name. And then I go last name. Hello. Oops, sorry. Hello. And I can make my whole message down here. And then what I do is I do what's really fun, which is called a string tran. And I go message is equal to string tran. And I say message, comma, first name, comma, first name. Then I go message is equal to string tran. And this is like a quick and dirty way to do kind of like a merge function.
It's like a quick templating or something like that.
Exactly. Now I would highly recommend you look at JSON templating. It's a lot better.
But if you're just doing a couple of them, who knows?
But there it is. And so what you do is you create your message like this, so you can make it as complicated. You can use HTML in there. You can do everything you want. And then you just put in things that are going to get replaced. And then you use the string tran, which basically takes a chunk of text, it looks for this and replaces it with this. So this is like a poor man's templating system here. But it's really, I mean, if you only have one thing to make a change, and where I will often do that is if I have some kind of complex SQL query and I don't want to use arguments and stuff like that, although I highly recommend you do, but I want to do something kind of weird, then I'll do these kind of things here. But more and more, we're starting to use the handlebars. So let's see, JS. What is that? I forget what it is, but there's actually a way you can create JSON and do a merge with JSON that's really effective and very powerful. So, and then you get more control over it. But I just wanted to share, that's one of the areas I use these kind of string delimiters. It's because I can create this really long statement and then do a quick substitution out of it. So if I had some kind of strange SQL query that's kind of a strange animal, I'm able to do something along those lines.
Cool. Speaking of arguments, I do have an argument question. But before we get into that argument question, just a quick thing about, because several people actually asked the same question. You were pointing out that you hit the synchronization button after you've made a change. But the question is, can you set up Alpha Anywhere so that they don't have to hit the synchronize button?
Yep.
Maybe if they tap out of a field, or maybe if they close, maybe when they leave a particular panel card, can it do the synchronization for them?
Well, the default way to do that, and that's a great question. Again,
Or an
I opened it.
autosave or something like that was another thing
Yeah.
people asked
I
about.
went in my list of customers and I go to my detail view here
Uh-huh.
and I go to synchronization policy.
Gotcha.
And in there, the first one is perform a client to server synchronization whenever the user saves the edit to a row. Okay, so now what will happen, and actually, you know what I'm going to do here? Go ahead and highlight all this. I am going to keep this part of it here. I'm going to just comment that out real quick. So now watch what happens. In this case, I'm going to go to my first record here. I'm going to edit it. And watch when I click save. Oh, I must have a error. Oh, there must be something out of sync with my data. So, but you notice it tried to do a synchronization. So let's do one thing real quick. I always do this. Let me go here. Another thing to learn is always put a refresh button, because when you're playing around.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I always put a refresh so I can clean out my working preview whenever because working preview, to be honest, it's working as if it's out on a machine, meaning it's pulling in local database. So I'm going to go ahead, go here, sorry. That's safety, but okay. Okay, we'll be back there in a moment. So let me go ahead and refresh my list. Okay, so I'm back to where I am. I'm going to go ahead and modify this. Now watch when I click save. Notice the synchronization never became highlighted. So the moment I hit save, it triggered the synchronization event. Now, if I am offline, it will try that, but it will just stop. It will say, I can't synchronize it. It will maintain its synchronization state, meaning you won't lose stuff. And then the next time, each time you save, it tries to do its synchronization. So that's an easy way. That way the system is handling that for you. And you're kind of safe. You're getting the data off the machine. But if it's a pretty big data set, you may not want to synchronize it every time. If you don't want to do that, then all you have to do is go find the synchronize code, which I moved. So I can go in here. So I'm going to go to my inline. I'm going to grab this code right here. Okay. I'm going to go back and let's say on my front end, this is completely artificial. On the city here, on the
Unchanged or something like that?
Yeah, I'm thinking, see, that's JavaScript. Do we have onChange?
Yep, there's an onChange right there.
Okay, so I'm just going to paste my JavaScript in there. So this is artificial. So now I'm going to go into working preview. The only thing is I haven't saved it. So anyway, you have to save the record. So, but I can go to this London right here. And when I change it and I go out, you'll notice something. You saw a little like spinning. So let it go here. Watch my cursor real quick. You see it tried to do the synchronization of the data. So that's very artificial. You'd want it on maybe when they navigate or do something like that. But the answer is you can just grab this JavaScript right here.
So that's synchronized. And presumably you could also grab the save command as well. Like when I tabbed out of city, I want you to save and I want you to synchronize.
Hey, by the way, just since we're here, notice you have an on Ajax fail function here.
Yeah.
Well, what's kind of cool is that like you'll notice in our previous, when we click the button, it showed the disclosure. Well, what if I'm offline and it doesn't get that message back to hide that disclosure? Well, you can trap that here by saying, well, if on Ajax fails, that means it can't do the synchronization, then run the code to get rid of it and maybe warn the user. So there are hooks in there that allow you to see
just to the right of it, there's also
on the client. Go ahead.
It looks like to the right of it, there's also an on-device offline to warn you about that specific case of it being offline as opposed to it failing for some other reason.
Yeah, so you may want to be careful, like when you start the disclosures, you can immediately hide it if you end up not being able to do a sync, because you don't want the disclosure just sitting there spinning as it goes from
Until
there.
you get signal again. Yeah, that'd be bad.
Yeah, exactly. That would be probably a bad, that's what we like to call in the business a bad user experience.
Mhm.
Or, it's like the 60s, a bad trip. That's
That's a
called a
bad.
bad trip. We don't want bad trips in our user interfaces.
All right, but let's see if we can make this trip a little bit better. That's cool.
Aha.
I've left a field, whatever. I've left a panel card. That's fine. What about synchronizing when a connection is reestablished?
Aha.
Is
Okay.
that impossible? Is that I know that's doable.
Think, golly, I know it's around here somewhere.
We have an
There you
event.
go. Okay. On connection
Connection
change.
change. Yep.
So on connection change fires before the interconnection is lost or recovered. So you got to be careful to determine whether it's online is true or false. So it gives you some parameters here to understand what's going on. But this is where you can detect, oh, the machine is online, offline, and you can then automatically trigger like a sync at that point when they're back online. So that's how you would do it. And that's found in client-side events on connection change. And they've spent a lot of time out over the last 6 months improving, measuring. It's sometimes a mystery because sometimes you have Wi-Fi and the system says I have Wi-Fi, but I don't actually have a connection to my server. So there's, you have to take into account that even though it says you have a connection, you may not fully have a connection. So you want to just make your code
Like you may have a
robust enough
network
to
connection,
say,
but on internet or something weird like that.
yeah, so when you do the synchronization, make sure in here you do the checking to make sure did it actually happen, so you don't leave them in a strange state of state. Yeah, good question.
So to sort of recap the questions about how do I do all this automatically, you can have it when they leave a field, it could do the save, or when they navigate away from a page, they could do the save. And you can also have it whenever it does a save, check to see whether or not they could do an update, or you can use this client-side event to do updates when it changes. Like the other ones failed. Yeah. So a lot of options there. Cool. All right. So back to the argument question. The question, it was the first one asked today, which is, this has to do with a view box this time. In a view box, can I set an argument based on a selected row?
Oh, I'm sorry. Run that by me again. It clicked.
Oh yeah, no problem at all. Okay, so this person's question is, it has to do with a view box, and in the view box, when you click on a row or select a row by tapping on it or whatever, can you set an argument based on that?
Oh, interesting. That's a good question. Let's just go. Just bringing up anything. Okay, let me go into my view box. So I believe, let me go ahead and go into my JavaScript functions here and do insert method and say argument, if I spelled right. Okay, there is a function, a JavaScript function that says, okay, I can this is grabbing the value of an argument. So we can actually, when you're running on, this is kind of cool, just to let everybody know, but that if you have an argument on your UX, that's actually exposed to the JavaScript. So you can use it in your JavaScript. So you'll notice in here, it's setting something to argument value of there. But you also have something called dialog object set argument value, argument name, argument value. So let me go ahead and copy that. And I'll paste it here. So what you can do is you can set an argument called customer ID to a value from JavaScript. And then when that's submitted back, that argument will be set in that manner. So the answer is yes. So basically in your view box, so let's go ahead and grab this real quick. Copy that, go back to here, go to my, oh, that'll probably blow up. So let me actually, let me cut that, leave it clean. Let me go into my test form. So I go to my items, I add an item in here, and I'll call set argument. Okay. And then on the click event, I can go into my click event JavaScript and I can set that. So I have my customer ID, and then let's say we want to set it to
the value A5 value, right?
Yeah, I think let's see if that will work there. And so now that I've got my argument, I can go back into my layout here, which by the way, I don't have anything, so I should really.
Yeah.
Let me see. I don't know. Oh, I must not have a good setup here.
Yeah.
Let me go back. Oh, I know what it is. Data source. Let's go to data and set it to list. And here are my fields. Oh, list. Ah, okay. So I picked the wrong one, but I still have that on my. Let me copy this out.
Mm-hmm.
Cancel. Yes. Get rid of that. No. Okay. So I've totally screwed that up. So I hope I didn't have it on board. Okay, here's a ViewBox list example. That one probably will work. Yeah, that will probably work here. Oh, of course, can't get there from here. Connection. Oh, I know it. Set it to Northwind. Okay, and just go like that. Layout. Which errors we have ID and customer code, so I'll get rid of that there. Okay, so now let's go into our view box here.
Mm-hmm.
Valid customer codes. Let me get rid of this here. Okay, so I'm going to go to my items. I'm going to go set argument. I'm going to go into the on-click event. And I'm going to set that there, and I'm passing in V. So now I'm going to go to my view box layout, and in here, I think I go into my template and field, and I can go around this. I can go div. Actually, you know what? I'm going to make this simple. I'm going to turn this into a free form. So I'm going to go in here and I'll go div. Sorry there, everybody. Okay, and in here, I'm going to insert this item here, set argument, and then the argument item is going to be, say, the company name. So this is going to actually, oh, I'm sorry, I want to insert the A5 value of company name, but that could be ID. So now what's going to happen is when I click on the company name, it's going to trigger set argument, meaning it's going to run this script right here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to pass in this V, which is going to be, in that case, for each row, if I go back to my layout here, each time it renders this, it puts out the company name and then would be maybe putting that company ID for that row here. And so each one's going to be different there. So basically you can pass into the, you can tell it what item to hit and then pass in the unique, and then that way you would set the value of that argument, and that's how you would set the argument on the fly using a view box. Hopefully that's dangerous enough.
That looks dangerous enough. Wonderful. Thanks very much. Cool. Well, it looks like we are coming to the end of our time. Dion, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you.
Today. And we're sorry we won't have you next week, but we appreciate that it's spring break. I like the idea of beaches and beach balls. Doesn't work so well up here in Boston, but maybe down in Texas you could do that. So
little Beach Boys going on. Let's go.
Sounds good.
You'll be out at the Cape.
Well, we may not be here next
with Buffy. Are you and Buffy heading out to the Cape?
Muffy, yes, exactly. Muffy and Susu.
Muffy, darling.
Yes.
We really need to get out of the sun.
That's a good point. Anyway, well, we will be around. So if you do, we may not be here doing a webinar next weekend. It'll be next week. It'll be a week after that. But we are here. Just send your questions to guides, GUIDES @alphasoftware.com, and we are happy to get back to you. Thanks again for attending. See you guys back here in 2 weeks. Take care and goodbye.